Hey everybody, it's Chris from CRT Sports Cards with our weekly video on our T206 collection and what cards came in the mail. This week, on the holiday week, we did have, or the week before the holidays, we had 10 cards arrive. A couple true beaters, that's why they are in the plastic. I'm afraid to touch a couple of them. I'm afraid they could crease too much, or one could actually fall apart. We'll show that here in a second. But on the set overall, we are now up to 92 cards, so nearing 100 by the end of the year. Not sure if I'll make it or not, but we are getting very close to that elusive 100 mark. We have 83 in the binder, and then we have 9 more graded, 5 PSA, 4 SGC, and then on my attempted polar bear back run set, we are now up to 15. There are 250 polar bear backs in the set, so I'm still debating on if I want to get after that set or not. And then on the Southern Leaguers, the Old Mill ones, this is our second Southern Leaguer and probably my favorite card of the week. But let's get to number 10 and let's work our way down to number 1. Card number 10 this week is Roy Brashear. As you can see, somebody probably tried to light it on fire or burned it, but has some real character to it. But it's a polar bear back and missing a chunk here at the bottom. But Roy Brashear was born in 1874 and died in 1951. He just played 2 years in the league for the Cardinals, pictured here in a Kansas City jersey. Kind of better known for a minor leaguer in the Pacific Coast League and then an umpire after his playing days. He played 13 years in the minor league. So just a pretty good old common for the set, and that's why it's number 10 on this week's mail day pickup. Number 9 this week is Jimmy Lavender. He was born in 1884 and died in 1960. Let's get this to focus real quick. As you can tell, extremely beat up, and obviously he lost half of his name. And someone many years ago, or maybe last year, or 100 years ago, I don't know, wrote his name LAV right above Ender, so we know who he is. Obviously, Team Providence on this card. Just a very standard Piedmont back. Jimmy Lavender debuted at 28 years old. His spitball was his out pitch. Definitely a interesting pitch when you think about the times we live in now with baseball. He did throw a no-hitter in 1915 versus the Giants, but he had some control issues in his career. He led the National League in 1915 with wild pitches, and over his career he was 63 and 76 with a 3.09 ERA. So that is card number 9 this week. Card number 8 and number 7 this week are Danny Murphy. So as you can see here, Danny Murphy, this is one of the 6 horizontal cards in the set. So I think these are just phenomenal when you think of 520 and only 6 are horizontal. Very standard Piedmont back. And then here is his picture with the bat. And obviously here's a second one for the Polar Bear edition this week. Danny Murphy was born in 1876 and died in 1955. He had a very successful career. I mean, he contributed to 5 pennants and 3 World Series victories as a Philadelphia A. In 1911, he did hit 329, and he was 34 years old. And then in his career, he did hit over 300 7 different times. So Tom Murphy has a distinction of being, like I said, one of the 6 horizontal cards in the set, and I think it looks really, really cool overall. And then his look cool. So there is card 8 and 7 this week. Card number 6 this week is Dick Rudolph. He was born in 1887 and died in 1949. Pictured here in Toronto. And he just a very basic Piedmont back. Dick Rudolph is a Hall of Famer, but he is in the International League Hall of Fame, and he was inducted in 1948. So he spent his roughly last year of his life as a Hall of Famer. He played for the Toronto Maple Leafs in 1907 through 1913, and then he did win a World Series with the Braves in 1914, where he went 26-10, and then in 1915 he did win 22 games, and in 1916 he won 19 games. So pretty successful career overall, and definitely a Hall of Famer, but not a Major League Hall of Famer. There is card number 6, Dick Rudolph. Card number 5 this week is Oscar Stenage. I presume it's how you say his last name. He was born in 1883 and died in 1964. Just a really cool action shot here with the green background and his Detroit uniform with the catcher's mitt. And on the back, this is a polar bear back for our sort of back run set. He played for Cincinnati in 1906 and then played for Detroit in 1909 through 1920. Also came back at 1925 and finished his career at the age of 42. He still holds to this day the AL record for assists as a catcher with 212 in one season. And he also, though, in 1911, had 41 errors. So the good with the bad when it comes with Oscar. But that is card number 5 this week, and another great polar bear back. My 4th favorite pickup this week is a true beater, but this is of Ed Sweeney, and he was born in 1888 and died in 1947. Another catcher here, and he played 8 years for the Yankees, and he played 8 years overall. This is another polar bear back, and obviously sometime in the past somebody hole punched this card and had it hanging up somewhere on a board or something. You never know, but just really interesting someone decided to hole punch this card. His best year was 1913, where he hit 2 home runs, and he hit 265. So heck of a year in the dead ball era to hit 2 home runs. He did steal 14 bases in 1914 as a catcher, and that is still a Yankees record, and that still stands today. Rumor has it he got Hal Chase out of New York by telling Frank Chance he was undermining him, as Frank Chance was the manager of the Yankees at the time. So kind of interesting backstory to this guy. And when you think of Hal Chase and his notorious betting back in the day. And then later in life, Ed Sweeney was an electrical switchman in Chicago. So overall, interesting career with records that still stand to this day in 2019. So there's card number 4. My 3rd favorite card of the week, and probably a card I might not touch after I put in the binder ever again, because I'm really afraid that it's going to fall into 2 pieces. But this is George Stovall. He was born in 1877 and died in 1951. He was the first player to sign with the Federal League in 1914. He was also later named president of the Association of Professional Baseball Players of America. So kind of a distinguished career from the Federal League to being named president. He also did work in the shipyards during World War I and World War II. So just a heck of an interesting life with him. He did play 955 games with Cleveland, and he actually did seal the final out of Addie Joss's perfect game in 1908. He also notoriously led a one-day strike when he was a player, so his teammates could attend Joss's funeral. So very, very interesting player overall, and a card that I'll probably never touch again, and I'm glad that it's in one piece, because you can see it is really rough. So that is card number 3 this week. My 2nd favorite card this week is Ed Killian. As you can tell, his name is missing, or has been really worn off from many years. But here's Ed Killian here in Detroit. He was born in 1876 and died in 1928. He played for the Naps in 03 and the Tigers from 1904 to 1910. He was a two-time 20-game winner in his career, and he did have a stretch where he pitched 1,001 innings without giving up a home run. That is an eternity when you think of today's game with the home runs. And his real big, obviously, claim to fame is in 1904. He had a duel with Cy Young, where probably the greatest pitching performance duel ever in the history of the game. Both pitched 14 scoreless innings. He did play in the 07 and 08 World Series, and he led the AL in strikeouts with 8 in 05. Also, or not strikeouts, but shutouts with 8 in 05. He did die of cancer at 51, but this is our second favorite card of the week, just based on the fact that he had a amazing pitching duel with Cy Young back in 1904. And our favorite card of the week is Monroe Dolly Stark. This is a card that I've wanted to own ever since I started really listening or learning about the T206 set. This card was covered, this player was covered in the Monster podcast, and I believe the second or third episode in an interview. But Monroe Dolly Stark is a Southern Leaguer. This is our second Southern Leaguer in our set so far. So we have the old mill back, and so little paper loss in the back, but definitely the old mill version of the Southern Leaguer. Monroe Dolly Stark was born in 1885 and died in 1924. He did play for 4 teams in 4 leagues as a minor leaguer. He's pictured here in his San Antonio Bronchos uniform. He did play briefly in the major leagues. He played for Cleveland, the Cleveland Naps in 09, and the Brooklyn Superbas and the Dodgers from 1910 and 1912. He then went back to being a minor leaguer. He played for 9 teams in 9 different years. So in the minor league career, he played 13 years for 13 different teams. And the interesting part to me, and the reason why I wanted this card so much, is because of how he actually passed away. He died at age 39, and he was gunned down in a bar fight in Memphis on December 1st, 1924. So you can only really imagine what a bar fight would look like, and a gun battle in a bar fight in 1924. So that is Monroe Dolly Stark, our favorite pickup of the week, and our second Southern Leaguer. Thanks for checking out this week's video where we covered our 10 T206 pickups, with the Dolly Stark Southern Leaguer being our favorite pickup of the week. As always, guys, any comments are greatly appreciated. Thumbs up, thumbs down. And as always, I'd greatly appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel. See you guys next week.